Robert Anthony Plant, born the 20th of August 1948, is an English singer and songwriter. He was the lead singer and lyricist of the rock band Led Zeppelin from its founding in 1968 until their breakup in 1980. Since then, he has had a successful solo career, sometimes collaborating with other artists such as Alison Krauss. Regarded by many as one of the greatest singers in rock music, he is known for his flamboyant persona, raw stage performances, and his powerful, wide-ranging voice. Plant was born and raised in the West Midlands area of England, and after leaving grammar school, he briefly trained as a chartered accountant, before leaving home at 16 years old to concentrate on singing with a series of local blues bands, including Band of Joy with drummer John Bonham. In 1968, he was invited by manager Peter Grant and guitarist Jimmy Page to join the Yardbirds, which Grant and Page were attempting to keep going after it had broken up. The new version of the Yardbirds changed their name to Led Zeppelin, and from the late 1960s to the end of the 1970s, the band enjoyed considerable success. Plant developed a compelling image as a charismatic rock and roll frontman, comparable to other 70s contemporaries, such as Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones and Roger Daltrey of The Who. After Led Zeppelin dissolved in 1980, Plant continued to perform and record continuously on a variety of solo and group projects. His first two solo studio albums, Pictures at 11, 1982, and The Principle of Moments, 1983, each reached the top 10 on the U.S. Billboard 200. With his rock and roll band, the Honey Drippers, he scored a top 10 hit single in 1984 with a cover version of Phil Phillips' 1959 song Sea of Love, which featured former Led Zeppelin bandmate Jimmy Page on guitar. Plant's fourth solo studio album, Now and Zen, 1988, was certified 3 times platinum and is his biggest-selling solo album to date. In the 1990s, another reunion project called Page and Plant released 2 albums and earned a Grammy Award for Best Hard Rock Performance in 1998 for Most High. In 2007, Plant began a collaboration with American bluegrass artist Alison Krauss, releasing their debut studio album, Raising Sand, which won the Grammy Award for Album of the Year in 2009 and produced the hit song Please Read the Letter, which won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year the same year. In 2010, he revived the Band of Joy, which shared its name with an early band he performed with in the 1960s, and in 2012 formed a new band, the Sensational Space Shifters, followed by a reunion with Alison Krauss in 2021. In 1995, Led Zeppelin were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Rolling Stone ranked Plant as one of the 100 best singers of all time, 2008. And he was the top pick for the greatest lead singer in a 2011 Readers' Poll. Hit Parader named Plant the greatest metal vocalist of all time, 2006. Plant was named one of the 50 great voices by NPR. In 2009, Plant was voted the greatest voice in rock in a poll conducted by classic rock radio station Planet Rock. Billboard ranked him number 4 on their list of the 50 greatest rock lead singers of all time, 2023. Early life and musical beginnings. Robert Anthony Plant was born on the 20th of August, 1948, in the Black Country town of West Bromwich, Staffordshire, England, to Robert C. Plant, a qualified civil engineer who served in the Royal Air Force during the Second World War, and Annie Celia Plant, née Kane, a Romani woman. He grew up in the Haley Green area of Halesowen, Worcestershire. Plant gained an interest in singing and rock and roll music at an early age. In an interview with Andrew Denton on the Denton Talk Show in 1994, Plant stated his desire, as a 10-year-old, to be like Elvis Presley. "When I was a kid, I used to hide behind the curtains at home at Christmas, and I used to try and be Elvis." There was a certain ambience between the curtains and the French windows. There was a certain sound there for a 10-year-old, which was all the ambience I got at 10 years old. And I always wanted to be a bit similar to that. Plant left King Edward VI Grammar School for Boys in Stourbridge in his mid-teens and developed a strong passion for the blues, mainly through his admiration for Willie Dixon, Robert Johnson, and early renditions of songs in this genre. I suppose I was quite interested in my stamp collection and Romani British history. I was a little grammar school boy, and I could hear this kind of calling through the airwaves. Plant abandoned training as a chartered accountant after only 2 weeks to attend college in an effort to gain more GCE passes and to become part of the Midlands blues scene. I left home at 16, he said, and I started my real education musically, moving from group to group, furthering my knowledge of the blues and of other music which had weight and was worth listening to. Plant's early blues influences included Johnson, Bukka White, Skip James, Sleepy John Estes, and Jerry Miller of Moby Grape. Plant had various jobs while pursuing his music career, one of which was working for the major construction company George Wimpey in Birmingham in 1967, laying tarmac on roads. He also worked at Woolworths in Halesowen Town for a short period of time. He cut 3 obscure singles on CBS Records and sang with a variety of bands, including the Crawling Kingsnakes, which brought him into contact with drummer John Bonham. They both went on to play in the Band of Joy, merging blues with newer psychedelic trends. Led Zeppelin, 1968 to 1980, early years. In 1968, guitarist Jimmy Page was in search of a lead singer for his new band and met Plant after being turned down by his first choice, Terry Reid, who referred him to a show at a teacher training college in Birmingham, where Plant was singing in a band named Ob's Tweedle. In front of Page, Plant sang Jefferson Airplane's 1966 song Somebody to Love, leading Page to end his search. As recalled by Plant and Page, Plant, I was appearing at this college when manager Peter Grant and Jimmy turned up and asked me if I'd like to join the Yardbirds. I knew the Yardbirds had done a lot of work in America, which to me meant audiences who would want to know what I might have to offer, so naturally I was very interested. Page, when I auditioned him and heard him sing, I immediately thought there must be something wrong with him personality-wise, or that he had to be impossible to work with, because I just could not understand why, after he told me he'd been singing for a few years already, he hadn't become a big name yet. So I had him down to my place for a little while, just to sort of check him out, and we got along great, no problems. Derivative of Plant's feather sigil symbol used in the album Led Zeppelin 4, 1971. With a shared passion for music, Plant and Page immediately developed a strong relationship and began their writing collaboration with reworkings of earlier blues songs. Initially dubbed the New Yardbirds in 1968, the band soon came to be known as Led Zeppelin. The band's eponymous debut studio album hit the charts in 1969 and is widely credited as a catalyst for the heavy metal genre. Plant has commented that it is unfair for people to think of Zeppelin as heavy metal, as almost a third of their music was acoustic. In 1975, Plant and his wife Maureen, now divorced, were seriously injured in a car crash in Rhodes, Greece. This significantly affected the production of Led Zeppelin's 7th studio album, Presence, for a few months while he recovered, and forced the band to cancel the remaining tour dates for the year. In July 1977, his son Carrick died at the age of 5, while Plant was on Led Zeppelin's concert tour of the United States. Plant retreated to his home in the Midlands and, for months afterward, questioned his future. Lyrics: Plant performing live with Led Zeppelin, 1973. Plant began writing song lyrics with Led Zeppelin during the making of Led Zeppelin II in 1969. According to Jimmy Page, the most important thing about Led Zeppelin II is that up to that point I'd contributed lyrics. Robert hadn't written before, and it took a lot of ribbing to get him into writing, which was funny. And then, on the second LP, he wrote the words of thank you. He said, I'd like to have a crack at this and write it for my wife. Plant's lyrics with Led Zeppelin were often mystical, philosophical, and spiritual, alluding to events in classical and Norse mythology, such as Immigrant Song, which refers to Valhalla and Viking conquests. However, the song No Quarter is often misunderstood to refer to the god Thor. The song actually refers to Mount Thor, which is named after the god. Another example is the Rain Song. Plant was influenced by the English writer and philologist J.R.R. Tolkien, whose book series inspired lyrics in some early Led Zeppelin songs. Most notably, The Battle of Evermore, Misty Mountain Hop, No Quarter, Ramble On, and Over the Hills and Far Away contain verses referencing Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Conversely, Plant sometimes used more straightforward blues themes dealing with sex, as in The Lemon Song, Trampled Underfoot, about giving in to sexual temptation, and Black Dog, narrated by a man obsessed with a woman. Welsh mythology forms a basis of Plant's interest in mystical lyrics. He grew up close to the Welsh border and would often take summer trips to Snowdonia. Plant bought a Welsh sheep farm in 1973 and began taking Welsh lessons and looking into the mythology of the land, such as the Black Book of Carmarthen, the Book of Taliesin, etc. Plant's first son, Carac, was named after the Welsh chieftain Caratacus. The song Bron Yor Stomp is named after the 18th century Welsh cottage Bron Yor, owned by a friend of his father. It later inspired the title of the instrumental song Bron Yor from their sixth studio album, Physical Graffiti, 1975. The songs Misty Mountain Hop, That's the Way, and early dabblings in what would become Stairway to Heaven were written in Wales and lyrically reflect Plant's mystical view of the land. Critic Steve Turner suggests that Plant's early and continued experiences in Wales served as the foundation for his broader interest in the mythologies he revisits in his lyrics, including those myth systems of Tolkien and the Norse. Page's passion for diverse musical experiences influenced Plant to explore Africa, specifically Marrakesh and Morocco, where he encountered the Egyptian singer and film actress Kulthum. I was intrigued by the scales, initially, and obviously the vocal work. The way she sang, the way she could hold a note, you could feel the tension. You could tell that everybody, the whole orchestra, would hold a note until she wanted to change. Both he and Jimmy Page revisited these influences during their live reunion album, No Quarter, Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, Unleaded, in 1994. During his solo career, Plant tapped into these influences many times, most notably on his seventh studio album, Dreamland, 2002. Most of the lyrics of Stairway to Heaven from Led Zeppelin IV were written spontaneously by Plant in 1970 at Headley Grange while the track was being recorded. While never released as a single, the song has topped polls as the greatest song of all time. Stage persona Plant left with Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page in concert in Chicago, Illinois, 1977. Plant enjoyed great success with Led Zeppelin throughout the 1970s and developed a compelling image as the charismatic rock and roll frontman, similar to his contemporaries The Who's lead singer Roger Daltrey, Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, and Jim Morrison of The Doors. With his mane of long blonde hair and powerful, bare-chested appearance, Plant helped to create the God of Rock and Roll, or Rock God archetype. On stage, Plant was particularly active in live performances, often dancing, jumping, skipping, snapping his fingers, clapping, making emphatic gestures to emphasize a lyric or cymbal crash, throwing back his head, or placing his hands on his hips. As the 1970s progressed, he, along with the other members of Led Zeppelin, became increasingly flamboyant on stage and wore more elaborate, colorful clothing and jewelry. According to Classic Rock magazine, once he had a couple of U.S. tours under his belt, Percy Plant swiftly developed a staggering degree of bravado and swagger that irrefutably enhanced Led Zeppelin's rapidly burgeoning appeal. In 1994, during his Unleaded tour with Jimmy Page, Plant himself reflected tongue-in-cheek upon his Led Zeppelin showmanship. I can't take my whole persona as a singer back then very seriously. It's not some great work of beauty and love to be a rock and roll singer, so I got a few moves from Elvis and one or two from Sonny Boy Williamson too, and Howlin' Wolf, and threw them all together. One of the oddest awards he received was the rock scene magazine Chest-O-Rama. Readers of the magazine had to decide who had the best chest in rock, and Plant was the winner. When they contacted him about it, he replied, I'm really greatly honored, although it's hard for me to be eloquent on the subject of my chest. Solo career, 1981 to present. Early solo career and success, 1981 to 1993. After Led Zeppelin disbanded in December 1980, following the death of drummer John Bonham, Plant briefly considered abandoning music to pursue a career as a teacher in the Rudolf Steiner education system, going so far as to be accepted for teacher training. He nevertheless embarked on a successful solo career, helped by encouragement from Genesis's drummer and later lead singer Phil Collins, who would go on to play with him. Plant's solo career began with the studio album Pictures at 11 in 1982, followed by 1983's The Principle of Moments. Popular tracks from this period include Big Log, a top 20 hit in 1983, In the Mood, 1983, Little by Little from 1985's Shaken and Stirred, Far Post, the B-side of Burning Down One Side, which appeared on the soundtrack of the American musical drama film White Nights, 1985, starring Gregory Hines and Mikhail Baryshnikov, and popularized by airplay on album-oriented rock stations, Tall Cool One, a number 25 hit from 1988's Now and Zen, and later I Believe from 1993's Fate of Nations. This last track, like Led Zeppelin's All My Love, was written for and dedicated to his late son, Karak. While Plant avoided performing Led Zeppelin songs through much of this period, although he would occasionally improvise his unique Zeppelin screams into his set, his tours in 1983, with Phil Collins on drums, and in 1985 were still very successful, often performing to sold-out arena-sized venues. In 1986, Plant performed at the Birmingham Heartbeat charity concert with other famous Midlands musicians. The two men looking rocked out and happy, posing for a photo, Plant, Phil Johnstone, and Cream editor Dusty Wright backstage at the Glastonbury Festival 1993. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, Plant co-wrote 3 solo albums with keyboardist/songwriter Phil Johnstone. These were Now and Zen in 1988, Manic Nirvana in 1990, and the 1993 Fate of Nations, which features Moya Brennan of Clannad and former Cutting Crew guitarist Kevin McMichael. Songs from this third studio album, plus a smattering of Led Zeppelin classics, made up the set list for Plant's acclaimed Sunset performance on the main stage at Glastonbury Festival in 1993. It was Johnston who talked Plant into playing Led Zeppelin songs in his live shows, something Plant had always previously resisted, not wanting to be forever known as the former Led Zeppelin vocalist. Although Led Zeppelin disbanded in 1980, Plant occasionally collaborated with Jimmy Page on various projects through this period, including forming a short-lived all-star group with Page and Jeff Beck in 1984 called the Honey Drippers. They released a mini-album called The Honey Drippers, Volume 1, and the band had a number 3 hit with a remake of the Phil Phillips's 1959 song Sea of Love, plus a follow-up hit with a cover version of Roy Brown's 1947 song Rockin' at Midnight. The pair again worked together in the studio on Page's debut solo album Outrider, 1988, and in the same year, Page contributed to Plant's solo album Now and Zen. Also, on the 15th of May 1988, Plant appeared with Page as a member of Led Zeppelin at the Atlantic Records 40th anniversary concert, where he also performed in his own right as a solo artist. Plant's live collaborations with other well-known musicians continued when he took to the stage with Queen for 1992's The Freddie Mercury Tribute Concert for AIDS Awareness at Wembley Stadium, where he sang Queen's Innuendo and Crazy Little Thing Called Love and Led Zeppelin's Kashmir and Thank You. Page and Plant, 1994 to 1998. Page and Plant became a full-fledged performing act from 1994 through 1998, releasing the No Quarter Jimmy Page and Robert Plant Unleaded live album in 1994, and following with an enormously successful tour in 1995, including a return to the Glastonbury Festival. 14 years of speculation from their fans and occasional sniping between the two former members ended when they reconvened their former musical partnership to produce No Quarter. Having long resisted offers from MTV to reform to do an unplugged show, they finally accepted as part of a deal that also allowed them to visit Morocco to record new material. The album combines the results of both of these projects. The Led Zeppelin material features new arrangements and new instrumentation, including strings, Egyptian musicians, and the vocals of British Asian singer Najma Akhtar. Page and Plant recorded their only post-Zeppelin album of original material as the studio album Walking into Clarksdale, 1998, an effort that was unsuccessful commercially, leading Plant to return to his solo career after another world tour. A song from this album, Please Read the Letter, was re-recorded by Plant with Alison Krauss and was featured on their 2007 studio album, which won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year. Priory of Brian and Reunion with Page, 1999 to 2001. Starting in mid-1999, Plant performed until the end of 2000 at several small venues with his folk rock band, named Priory of Brian. This band consisted of the original Band of Joy guitarist Kevin Gammond, alongside Andy Edwards, drums, Paul Timothy, keyboards, and Paul Wetton, bass guitar. The Priory of Brian played around 100 concerts across Europe at various small clubs and festivals. The band performed cover versions of songs that had influenced Plant in his formative years. Many of these cover versions cropped up later on his seventh solo studio album Dreamland, 2002. In 1999, Plant contributed to the tribute album for Moby Grape co-founder Skip Spence, who was terminally ill. The album, More Or, a tribute to the Skip Spence album, Birdman 1999, with the album title referring to Spence's only solo studio album, Or, Columbia 1969, contained Plant's version of Spence's Little Hands. Plant had been an admirer of Spence and Moby Grape since the release of Moby Grape's 1967 eponymous debut studio album. In 2001, Plant appeared on Afro-Celt Sound System's third studio album, Volume 3, Further in Time. The song Life Begin Again features a duet with the Welsh folk singer Julie Murphy, emphasizing Plant's recurring interest in Welsh culture. Murphy also toured in support of Plant. In the summer of 2001, Plant reunited with Page for both a cover version of My Bucket's Got a Hole in It for a Sun Records tribute album and an appearance at the Montreux Jazz Festival, the last time that they worked outside Led Zeppelin together. Strange Sensation and Further Collaborations, 2002 to 2009. In 2002, with his then newly formed band Strange Sensation, Plant released a widely acclaimed collection of mostly blues and folk remakes, Dreamland. Contrasting with this lush collection of often relatively obscure remakes, the second studio album with Strange Sensation, Mighty Rearranger, 2005, contains new original songs. Both have received some of the most favorable reviews of Plant's solo career and 4 Grammy Award nominations, 2 in 2003 and 2 in 2006. Plant and Strange Sensation performing live at the Green Man Festival, 2007. As a former member of Led Zeppelin, along with Page and John Paul Jones, Plant received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2005 and the Polar Music Prize in 2006. From 2001 to 2007, Plant actively toured the U.S. and Europe with Strange Sensation. His sets typically included recent, but not only, solo material and plenty of Led Zeppelin favorites, often with new and expanded arrangements. A DVD titled Soundstage, Robert Plant and Strange Sensation, featuring his soundstage performance, filmed at the Soundstage Studios in Chicago on the 16th of September 2005, was released in October 2006. With Strange Sensation's Justin Adams, he appeared at the 2003 Festival au Désert, held in Essakane in the north of Mali, captured in a French-language documentary film entitled Le Festival au Désert, 2004. On the 23rd of June, 2006, Plant was the headliner, backed by Ian Hunter's band, at the benefit for Arthur Lee concert at New York City's Beacon Theater, a show which raised money for Lee's medical expenses from his bout with leukemia. Plant and band performed 13 songs, 5 by Arthur Lee and Love, 5 Led Zeppelin songs, and 3 others, including a duet with Ian Hunter. At the show, Plant told the audience of his great admiration for Arthur Lee, dating back to the mid-1960s. Lee died of his illness 6 weeks after the concert. An expansive box set of his solo work, 9 Lives, was released in November 2006, which expanded all of his albums with various B-sides, demos, and live cuts. It was accompanied by a DVD. All his solo works were re-released with these extra tracks individually. In 2007, Plant contributed 2 tracks to the Fats Domino tribute album, Goin' Home, a tribute to Fats Domino, It Keeps Rainin' with the Lil Band of Gold, and Valley of Tears with the Soweto Gospel Choir. Plant performed with Strange Sensation guitarist Justin Adams and the West African Ritty, a 1-string violin master, Julde Kamara, for the finale of the 3-day World of Music, Arts and Dance Festival in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, UAE. Approximately 50,000 attended each of the free WOMA concerts, which took place on the Corniche Public Beach from 23 to the 25th of April 2009. Alison Krauss, 2007 to 2009 and 2021, Plant performing live on stage with Alison Krauss at the NIA in Birmingham, 2008. In 2007 and 2008, Plant recorded and performed with bluegrass star Alison Krauss. A duet album, Raising Sand, was released on the 23rd of October 2007 on Rounder Records. The album, recorded in Nashville, Tennessee and Los Angeles, California, and produced by T-Bone Burnett, includes performances of lesser-known material from R&B, blues, folk, and country songwriters, including Mel Tillis, Townes Van Zandt, the Byrds' Gene Clark, Tom Waits, Doc Watson, Little Milton, and the Everly Brothers. In February 2008, the song Gone, 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 Done Moved On from Raising Sand won a Grammy Award for Best Pop Collaboration with Vocals at the 50th Annual Grammy Awards. In February 2009, at the 51st Annual Grammy Awards, Raising Sand won 5 Grammys for Album of the Year, Record of the Year, Best Pop Collaboration with Vocals, Best Country Collaboration with Vocals, and Contemporary Folk/Americana Album. The album has been successful critically and commercially, and was certified platinum on the 4th of March 2008. The album was also nominated for the Mercury Prize in July 2008. Plant and Krauss began an extended tour of the U.S. and Europe in April 2008, playing music from Raising Sand and other American roots music as well as reworked Led Zeppelin tunes. Also in 2008, Plant performed with bluegrass musicians at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival and Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. He appeared as a surprise guest during Fairport Convention's set at the 2008 Cropperty Festival, performing Led Zeppelin's The Battle of Evermore with Christina Donahue as a tribute to Sandy Denny. In 2021, Robert Plant and Alison Krauss released the 12-track studio album Raise the Roof, also produced by T-Bone Burnett as a follow-up to Raising Sand. Accompanying the album's launch, Plant and Krauss performed a globally live-streamed set, broadcast from Nashville's Sound Emporium Studios. Band of Joy, 2010-2011. Plant performing live with the Band of Joy, including, most notably, Patty Griffin and Buddy Miller, at Symphony Hall in Birmingham, 2010. In July 2010, Plant embarked on a 12-date summer tour in the United States with his newly formed group called Band of Joy, reprising the name of his first band in the 1960s. The group included singer Patty Griffin, singer-guitarist Buddy Miller, multi-instrumentalist and vocalist Daryl Scott, bassist-vocalist Byron House, and drummer-percussionist-vocalist Marco Giovino. A one-off show in the United States on the 12th of September 2010 at the Bowery Ballroom in New York City was followed by an 11-date autumn 2010 tour in Europe and a North America tour in 2011. A new studio album called Band of Joy was released on the 13th of September 2010 by Rounder Records. The album was nominated for Best Americana Album in the 2011 Grammy Awards, and Plant's performance of Silver Rider on the album, a cover from the Low album The Great Destroyer, was nominated for Best Solo Rock Vocal Performance. The band played their final scheduled show together at the Big Chill Festival in the grounds of Eastnor Castle in Eastnor, Herefordshire, on the 7th of August 2011. The show ended with Plant bidding his bandmates a fond farewell. In September 2011, Plant played in Marfa, Texas at El Cosmic Trans Pecos Festival as part of a band called Crown Vic, consisting of Patty Griffin, Donnie Wynn, David Grissom, Glenn Fukunaga, and Michael Ramos. On the 30th of September 2011, Plant and Band of Joy played in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park as part of the 11th Hardly Strictly Bluegrass Festival. Released in October 2011, Plant duetted with Alfie Boe on Song to the Siren for Boe's 6th studio album, Alfie, which he had also recorded himself on his 7th solo studio album, Dreamland, 2002. Sensational Space Shifters, 2012 to 2018. It was first reported that Robert Plant's new band, the Sensational Space Shifters, would be debuting at 2012's WOMAD Festival in Wiltshire. An intimate warm-up gig was then announced in Gloucester on the 8th of May 2012 to a crowd of 400. Although it was initially reported that there were 10 members of the band, along with Plant, the band consists of former Strange Sensation members, cast guitarist Liam Skin Tyson, Justin Adams, Billy Fuller, and John Baggett, along with Dave Smith and Julde Kamara. Patty Griffin was the special guest on the first few shows prior to her new studio album release and subsequent tour. Plant performing live on stage at a festival in 2018. On the 13th of July 2012, the band released a digital download live album called Sensational Space Shifters, live in London, July 12. This album featured a mix of Strange Sensation and Led Zeppelin reinterpretations, as well as covers and a spot by Patty Griffin. In addition to WOMAD and the Gloucester Show, the Sensational Space Shifters were scheduled for the free Sunflower River Blues and Gospel Festival's 25th anniversary in Clarksdale, Mississippi, on the 10th to the 12th of August 2012. Released in September 2014, Lullaby and the Ceaseless Roar is Plant's 10th solo album and the first studio recording with his band The Sensational Space Shifters. On the 28th of June 2014, Plant and the Sensational Space Shifters played at the Glastonbury Extravaganza. The band featured West African musician Julde Kamara, guitarists Liam Tyson and Justin Adams, drummer Dave Smith, Massive Attack keyboardist John Baggett, and bassist Billy Fuller. On the 7th of August 2014, Plant announced an autumn 2014 7-date North American tour from the 25th of September in Port Chester, New York, to the 7th of October 2014 in Los Angeles, California. To celebrate Record Store Day 2015, Saturday the 18th of April, Plant released a special 10-inch live extended play, EP, titled More Roar, which was limited to 10,000 copies. During a concert at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City on the 19th of September 2015, Plant hinted at plans for a new studio album with the Sensational Space Shifters, stating, "We'll go make another record, and then we'll come see you guys even more." On the 25th of April 2015, Plant headlined a special event, Lead Belly at 125 inches, a tribute to American folk legend Lead Belly at Kennedy Center in New York City in conjunction with the Grammy Museum, and performed with Alison Krauss, Victor Krauss, Buddy Miller. Plant covered Elbow's track, Blanket of Night, featured on the British Red Cross compilation album The Long Road, released on the 4th of March 2016. The album aimed to raise awareness of the struggles faced by refugees and asylum seekers at a time of increased global conflict and migration. "We have a worldwide international catastrophe," said Plant. "Talking about it is one thing. Doing something about it is another. The position we are in, it's paramount we all do our best, one way or another, to help." Plant later confirmed that in October he would join artists including Emmylou Harris, Steve Earle, Patty Griffin for select dates on the Lampedusa Concerts for Refugees tour. The tour across 11 North American cities was a series of acoustic concerts intended to raise awareness of the worldwide refugee crisis and funds to support educational programs for refugees. Plant's 11th solo album, Carry Fire, was released on the 13th of October 2017 and was the second studio album to be supported by his band, the Sensational Space Shifters. In 2018, Plant received the AMA Lifetime Achievement Award at the UK Americana Honours and Awards. Plant headlined the Sunday night of Iceland's Secret Solstice Festival in Reykjavik on the 23rd of June 2019. John Blees joined the Sensational Space Shifters in June 2018 and replaced Dave Smith on drums. Saving Grace, 2019 present. On the 7th of March 2019, Plant performed at the 3rd annual Love Rocks NYC, a benefit concert for God's Love We Deliver at the Beacon Theater in New York City, hosted by the comedians Bill Murray, Martin Short, and Chevy Chase, among others, featuring an all-star lineup including Sheryl Crow, Buddy Guy, Hozier, Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, Jimmy Vaughn of the Fabulous Thunderbirds. The concert was presented by John Varvatos and Greg Williamson. Plant giving an interview to AXS-TV in 2021. Released via Plant's own Esperanza label, a remastered version with updated artwork of Fate of Nations 1993 as part of 2019 Record Store Day, with proceeds going to Greenpeace. In 2019, Plant formed a low-key acoustic band called Saving Grace and performed support slots in February 2019 for Fairport Convention and Seth Lakeman. In March 2020, Saving Grace announced a U.S. tour scheduled for May 2020 that was canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. On the 19th of July 2021, Plant appeared on stage for his first post-pandemic show in Worthing, West Sussex, performing with his band Saving Grace for the first time since 2019. He went on to tour the UK with Saving Grace for their rescheduled shows. On the 16th of July 2025, it was announced the upcoming release on the 26th of September 2025 via None Such Records of Saving Grace, credited with Susie Dyan, Plant's first studio album with his Saving Grace bandmates, vocalist Susie Dyan, drummer Ollie Jefferson, guitarist Tony Kelsey, banjo and string player Matt Worley, and cellist Barney Morse Brown. The 10-track album was recorded between April 2019 and January 2025 in the Cotswolds and on the Welsh borders. Plant describes it as a songbook of the lost and found. It includes reimaginings of songs by Memphis Minnie, Bob Mosley, Moby Grape, Blind Willie Johnson, The Low Anthem, Martha Scanlon, Sarah Siskind, and Mimi Parker and Alan Sparhawk of the band Low. The first excerpt from the album, a reimagined cover version of the band Low's Everybody's Song, was released the same day. Along with these releases, it was also announced summer concert dates in July 2025 in France and Spain, and a U.S. autumn tour in late October and November 2025. Led Zeppelin-related projects and reunion rumors. Plant on stage with Jimmy Page in 2007. Plant performed with surviving members of Led Zeppelin, both on the 13th of July 1985 for Live Aid, with Phil Collins and Tony Thompson on drums simultaneously, and on the 15th of May 1988 for Atlantic Records' 40th anniversary. At the 1988 reunion, Jason Bonham, the son of Led Zeppelin's late drummer John Bonham, played drums. Both sets featured only a few songs, performed with minimal rehearsal. Plant was unhappy with both performances, saying that it was like sleeping with your ex-wife but not making love. At the 1990 Silver Clef Award winners concert at Nebworth Festival, Plant was joined by Jimmy Page. Some of their set was released on the subsequent live album and video. In 1995, Led Zeppelin were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Plant performed a medley of blues numbers at the induction show with Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, Jason Bonham, Steven Tyler, and Joe Perry of Aerosmith. Then they were joined by fellow inductee Neil Young for When the Levee Breaks. After years of reunion rumors, Led Zeppelin performed a full 2-hour set on the 10th of December 2007 at the Ahmed Ertegun tribute concert, with Jason again filling in on drums. Despite enormous public demand, Plant declined a $200 million offer to tour with Led Zeppelin after the 2007 show.
In interviews following the 2007 show, Plant left the door open to possible future performances with Led Zeppelin, saying that he enjoyed the reunion and felt that the show was strong musically. Although Page and Jones have expressed the strong desire to tour as Led Zeppelin, Plant has consistently opposed a full tour and has responded negatively to questions about another reunion. In a January 2008 interview, he stated that he does not want to tour like a bunch of bored old men following the Rolling Stones around. In a statement on his website in late 2008, Plant stated, "I will not be touring with Led Zeppelin or anyone else for the next 2 years. Anyone buying Led Zeppelin tickets will be buying bogus tickets." In February 2013, Plant hinted that he was open to a Led Zeppelin reunion in 2014, though suggesting that he was not the reason for Led Zeppelin's dormancy, saying that Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones are Capricorns. They're quite contained in their own worlds, and they leave it to me, adding that he was not the bad guy and that you need to see the Capricorns. I've got nothing to do in 2014. In a spring 2014 interview with the BBC about the then forthcoming reissue of Led Zeppelin's first 3 studio albums, Page said he was sure fans would be keen on another reunion concert, but Plant later replied that the chances of it happening were 0. Page then told the New York Times that he was fed up with Plant's refusal to play, stating, "I was told last year that Plant said he is doing nothing in 2014, and what do the other 2 guys think? Well, he knows what the other guys think. Everyone would love to play more concerts for the band. He's just playing games, and I'm fed up with it, to be honest with you. I don't sing, so I can't do much about it," adding, "I definitely want to play live. Because, I've still got a twinkle in my eye. I can still play. So, yeah, I'll just get myself into musical shape, just concentrating on the guitar." On the 30th of July 2014, NME revealed that Plant was slightly disappointed and baffled by Page in an ongoing Led Zeppelin dispute, during which Page declared he was fed up with Plant delaying Led Zeppelin reunion plans. Instead, Plant offered Led Zeppelin's guitarist to write acoustically with him, as he is interested in working with Page again, but only in an unplugged way. Page responded, "He would have no intention whatsoever of doing it. I've had enough of all this stuff, to be honest. Robert says this, Robert says that. The only reality of it is that we did 1 concert." No matter how you dress it up, look at the situation. That's it. Personal life: Plant married Maureen Wilson on the 9th of November 1968. The couple had 3 children. Daughter Carmen Jane, 1968, who later married Charlie Jones, Plant's bassist for solo tours, and sons Carrick Pendragon, 1972 to 1977, and Logan Romero, 1979. In 1977, during Led Zeppelin's U.S. tour, their 5-year-old son, Carrick, died of a stomach illness. The song All My Love, co-written with John Paul Jones, is a tribute to him. The couple divorced in August 1983. In 1991, Plant and Shirley Wilson, sister of ex-wife Maureen, had a son, Jesse Lee. From 1993 to 1995, Plant dated the British Indian singer Najma Akhtar, who provided vocals on the Page and Plant Unleaded tour. Plant is interested in Welsh history and donated money to the creation of a bronze statue of the last native-born Welsh Prince of Wales, Owen Glyndwr, at St Peter ad Vincula in the village of Pennell in Gwynedd, northwest Wales, unveiled in September 2004. He is also believed to have contributed funds to a slate carving of Glyndwr's coat of arms at the Celtica Museum in Machynlleth. Plant is part of a Glyndwr network and attends meetings about him in Wales. In the New Year Honours List 2009, Plant was appointed a Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, for services to music, and on the 10th of July 2009, invested by then Prince of Wales Charles III. On the 14th of August 2009, football club Wolverhampton Wanderers announced that Plant had become the club's 3rd vice president. Plant officially received the honor before kickoff at the club's first match of the season against West Ham United. Plant was 5 years old when he first visited Molineux Stadium.
He recalled in an interview with his local newspaper, The Express and Star, in August 2010, "I was 5 when my dad took me down for the first time, and Billy Wright waved at me. Honest, he did. And that was it. I was hooked from that moment." In late 2010, BBC Two aired a documentary titled Robert Plant by Myself. It features Plant discussing his journey with Led Zeppelin and various projects since. In a July 2012 interview with The Independent, Plant stated he had eloped and ran off to Texas with the American singer Patty Griffin. Plant's UK-based manager later told E! News that Plant was apparently being cheeky when he used the word eloped to describe his home life, for Robert has not married Patty Griffin. Instead, he was just referring to the fact that he's been residing in Texas. According to a July 2012 Ultimate Classic Rock article, Plant and Griffin had been dating for over a year, spending half of their time together in Austin, Texas. On the 23rd of August 2014, The Independent indicated Plant had broken up with Griffin. "Patty and I tried a sort of zigzag across the Atlantic," Plant told the publication, "but she didn't share my penchant for cider, and she used to marvel at the black country character I became after 4 pints of Thatcher's. My feelings are very much ones of sadness and regret." In early 2013, Plant contributed to a community buyout scheme to save the music venue The Bell Inn in Bath, Somerset. He currently resides at Shatterford, near Bewdley in the Wyre Forest district of Worcestershire. In 2020, Plant donated money towards frontline medical supplies during the COVID-19 pandemic. The money went to the GoFundMe page of a small clothing manufacturer in Kidderminster, England, that makes scrubs for local hospitals. Legacy Plant has influenced the style of many of his contemporaries, including Geddy Lee of Rush, Ann Wilson of Heart, Sammy Hagar of Van Halen, and later rock vocalists such as Jeff Buckley and Jack White of the White Stripes, who imitated his performing style. Freddie Mercury of Queen and Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses were influenced by Plant. The Encyclopedia Britannica notes that, exaggerating the vocal style and expressive palette of blues singers such as Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters, Plant created the sound that has defined much hard rock and heavy metal singing: a high range, an abundance of distortion, loud volume, and emotional excess. Plant received the Knebworth Silver Clef Award in 1990. In 2006, the hard rock and heavy metal magazine Hit Parader named Plant as #1 on its list of the 100 greatest metal vocalists of all time, a list that included Rob Halford of Judas Priest, #2, Steven Tyler, #3, Freddie Mercury, #6, Geddy Lee, #13, and Paul Stanley of Kiss, 18. All of whom were influenced by Plant. In 2008, Rolling Stone named Plant the 15th greatest singer of all time on their list of 100 greatest singers of all time. In 2009, he was voted the greatest voice in rock in a poll conducted by Planet Rock. He was included in the Q's 2009 list of Artists of the Century and was ranked at #8 in their list of 100 greatest singers in 2007. In 2009, Plant also won the Outstanding Contribution to Music Prize at the Q Awards. He was placed at #3 on Spin's list of the 50 greatest rock frontmen of all time. On the 20th of September 2010, NPR named Plant as one of the 50 great voices in the world. In July 2018, Plant won the Silver Clef Integro Outstanding Award, announced by music charity Nordhoff Robbins. On the 15th of March 2022, Plant was the guest on BBC Radio 4's Desert Island Discs. His musical choices included I Ain't Superstitious by Howlin' Wolf and Ohio by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. His book choice was The Earliest English Poems, translated by Michael Alexander. His luxury item was a basket containing photos of homing pigeons, and his favorite musical piece was Serenade by the American tenor and actor Mario Lanza.